baseball fans. I'm Ken O'Neill, and this is CSBN, the Collegiate Summer Baseball Network. Today we have Kyle Brown, the GM of the Peninsula Oilers, here to talk about the Alaskan Baseball League, one of the oldest leagues in the country, known for developing such players as Jason Giambi, Randy Johnson, and Kurt Suzuki from the World Series champion Washington Nationals, just to name a few. Now today we're going to talk about synergy. And I looked on their website here, and I just want to read this briefly. It says, Synergy's success is built on proprietary technology that links an amazing array of sports data and video clips to create visual statistics and analytics about players, teams, and games. Synergy's loggers and proprietary technology dissects and analyzes every pitch, player, plate appearance, game situations, and outcome. Now, how did this come about, and how did you start working with it?
Well, actually, I was approached by a gentleman by the name of Matt Lawrence this year at the ABCA convention in Nashville, Tennessee. So he had come up to the ABL booth and just kind of introduced himself to me. To be honest, I had no idea what Synergy was. And he just kind of gave me the spiel about, their company, what they do, what they were looking to expand into as far as summer baseball. We were put on a short list of summer leagues that MLB was looking to sponsor and get in. And after hearing Matt's spiel and talking with the other 4 GMs, we all felt it was an absolutely fantastic idea to take part in Synergy's offer.
Now, in this day and age, a lot of things are analytic. It started, like in 1990 with Oakland. How does that affect you or the league as far as how they conduct business on a day-to-day operation?
Well, before we had probably 3 guys in the dugout charting various things, whether it was spray charts, pitching tendencies, our guys, what do we hit, what do they throw in counts, everything like that. And then we'd have a guy in the stands with the radar gun and another chart. And basically being able to utilize Synergy's technology, all we have to have is one pitcher in the stands with the radar gun charting, and everything that we upload to their server. I don't know their proprietary technology, but all I get told is if I upload all the cameras data or all the cameras film to their system, it will chop it up and break it down into each folder per team, per player. And from what I understand, we'll have more information and we'll know what to do with.
Now, will that as a manager, when you are looking at that stuff, is that going to determine who you play as opposed to just saying this guy is better than another guy?
In the ABL, we play each other 11 times. So we kind of get familiar with each other's pitchers and each other's hitters. So you're going to know who has success off who. This will just add that empirical data to back it up.
Now, will they
had a discussion yesterday.
Now, will they be using your league? Your league is like one of the first ones, and you're going to determine what happens along the line?
Well, I know the Cape already has a sponsorship. So as of right now, I know it's us in the Cape that'll have the Synergy technology. As of right now, they're still expanding into baseball from how Matt explained it as far as summer collegiate-wise. They're in all 30 MLB teams, and they're in about 250 colleges right now. But as far as summer baseball goes, we're going to be one of the first leagues to have it. So yeah, I would say we're a guinea pig, but as far as them expanding their servers and their capabilities, I think you're going to see more and more summer collegiate leagues take on Synergy sports technology.
Now, do you think that there's just too much information?
Not with this, because we're not looking at spin rate, we're not looking at exit velocity, we're not looking at true analytics. As far as Synergy, what I understand is it's going to be more of the pitch tracking, so pitch locator. So I can look at what my pitchers are successful in throwing a fastball to a specific location, a breaking ball in certain counts, and you can kind of go off the hitters and outs. Let's say you have great success hitting 2-2 curveballs. Well, now I might go a different pitch in that situation. So I think in the finite aspects of it, it'll be good. Overall, you can get lost in it. But I think playing matchups, it'll help us out, especially when we get into playoff time where it really counts, figuring out which starters have more success against which teams, which relievers have better success during which part of the lineup, and especially which innings. you can go into analytics and say, closing is no more value than the sixth inning, but the pressure does play an effect in the human psyche. So you're just trying to gather all that data throughout the year in order for you to utilize it and, hopefully become ABL champion that specific season.
Now, the last time we talked, briefly, we talked about the cheating scandal going on in the Major League Baseball. Now, if you were in your championship game last year, if you found out that the other team was using media or so forth to steal signs, how would you handle that?
Probably Goose Gossage way. Call a curveball, throw a fastball in. That's just me. That's just me. Obviously, in hindsight, in today's day and age, I'm going to go up and talk to the other general manager, and we're going to try and sort it out that way. As far as I know of, no one's doing that in the league, and all Synergy's technology is not live streamed, so there will not be an access to a camera that is zoomed in on the catcher, the pitcher, catcher, hitter. So in that sense, everything is uploaded after the game. Could they study the game after and go into the code cracking of our signs? They very well could. But at the same point in time, for me, it's summer ball. It's more of the kids being able to develop, work out, get stronger, and then experience the Alaskan Baseball League for all that we have to offer. Yeah, I mean, this is a big deal for our league. You have to understand we're many, many miles away from the lower 48, as we like to call it. So this is a great opportunity for all the kids that come up and play in the Alaska Baseball League to utilize the technology. And more importantly, their college coaches can now see every at-bat, every pitch, every defensive situation that their player goes through during the Alaska Baseball League. Now, what it also does is it allows all 30 MLB teams to follow our league throughout the summer. So right now we have one weekend that we call our Scout Showcase Weekend, where scouts will come up and we'll play league games. And, we make sure that we throw our ones and our twos and play our top tier players in the league so the scouts can evaluate to help them in the draft in the upcoming season. So with this technology, not only can scouts and colleges follow them throughout the year, but if a scout comes up and a kid performs exceptionally well during that weekend, they can now access Synergy's system and see all 120, 140 at-bats of the summer or all 40 innings that a kid throws. So it's only going to help the scouts and the colleges and the players to further develop and study each other.
We're speaking with Kyle Brown from the Alaska League, and if you could give us some history of the league, since you're way up there out of the 48 states.
Yeah, the ABL was founded by the Alaskan Gold Panners. They're up in Fairbanks, and the Anchorage Glacier Pilots. It was started in the late 60s, and currently we have 5 teams in the league, and we've had multiple teams throughout the history of the league, rather, where we've had, the Gold Panners in it, the Glacier Pilots. We've had a team called the North Pole Knicks. We had Hawaii Island Movers. We've had the Seattle Studs in the league. We're now, the 5 teams that comprise it are the Alaska Gold Panners. I'm sorry, the Gold Panners are still out. They moved on to a independent league schedule. So we have the Anchorage Glacier Pilots, the Anchorage Bucks, the Matsu Miners, the Chugiak Eagle River Chinooks, and then the Peninsula Oilers, who I am the general manager of.
Now, Alaska obviously is a huge state. How is the travel there?
Well, for us being on the peninsula, we're about 27 miles as the crow flies from Anchorage. But if you want to drive, it's about 3 hours because you do have to drive around the Cook Inlet. Now, the other 4 teams are kind of based in the Anchorage area. So you have 2 teams, the Glacier Pilots and the Bucks, that both play at Mulcahy Stadium. And then the Chugiak Eagle River Chinooks, they play about 30 miles north of Anchorage. And then Matsu Miners are about 1 hour north of Anchorage. They're in a city called Palmer, which is right next to a bigger city that you might have heard of called Wasilla. So that really comprises the league. And each team will either take vans. We all own vans, or we take a chartered bus.
Now, you have the 5 teams. Tell us a little history about the teams, because there's been some Major League Baseball players who have come from your league.
Oh, yeah. No, we've had several Major League Baseball players. Every year we get excited about the draft coming up. So just trying to break down each team, I'll start with the Glacier Pilots. The Glacier Pilots were founded in 1969, and we used to participate also in the NBC tournament out in Wichita, Kansas. We kind of stopped doing that as late. Just the funding and everything like that nowadays is a little bit tougher to do. So they were started in 1969 with the Gold Panthers, and all the teams in our league are actually nonprofits. So we rely heavily on our bingo halls and our pool tab rooms. So we all have gambling that helps suffice our payroll in a sense. And then we also rely heavily on sponsors and donors throughout our communities. I mean, if you look at the Glacier Pilots, some notable big leaguers that have come through there. I mean, you're talking Aaron Boone, C.J. Crone, Jacoby Ellsbury, Kyle Freeland, Eddie Garardo, Randy Johnson played for him. Aaron Judge played him. Jacoby Ellsbury played for him. James Paxton, J.T. Snow, Mark McGuire. I don't know if I mentioned him. Jim Crawford. I mean, the list goes on and on for the Glacier Pilots. I mean, a very illustrious organization in our league.
Now, you wouldn't have thought that because it's so far away, but now you've got 4 other teams. Give us some information on them.
Yeah, so we'll stick with Mulcahy. So then we have the Anchorage Bucks, and they've been around since 1980. And like most teams in 1980, they started off as an adult league organization. They did one year of that where they weren't affiliated with the Alaska League. They could play us non-conference, if you will, non-league games. And then 1981, they became a nonprofit organization with an active board of directors, and they officially joined the Alaskan League. Some notable guys with them are, I mean, Wally Joyner, if you remember Wally, Jeff Kent, Jeff Francis, Jared Weaver, C.J. Wilson, Paul Goldschmidt, Wyatt Mills, Kurt Suzuki, who obviously just won the World Series with the Nationals. So they have an illustrious amount of big leaguers and guys that get drafted. I mean, these are just guys that made it to the big leagues. We're not even counting the thousands of kids that have been drafted out of our league over the years.
Okay, keep going because I don't know the other 3 teams.
And no, you're fine. So then you have the Matsu Miners, and they have about 72 major leaguers that have come out of the organization. They were founded in 1976, and then they were called the Valley Green Giants, and they were still based out of Palmer. And then in 1980, they actually changed the name to the Matsu Miners, and that's because the Matsu Valley has a big mining community, and they wanted to keep that predominant in their name. And then that's when kind of they broke away from the Gold Panthers and became their own organization, got their own board of directors, and moved into a nonprofit organization that can become their own identity or entity rather. And then you're going to have Chugiak, Eagle River. Now they are an Athletes in Action organization, so they are a faith-based organization. They've been part of the league for 25 years. And Chris Beck's their GM, so he's been a part of that organization for 20 years. They first started off in Fairbanks with the Gold Panthers, sharing a stadium. And then in 2001, they became a part of the league. And then 2001, they also moved down to Eagle River, and they got their own, which is big because any team that can have their own stadium, it opens up a lot more avenues for revenue and sponsors. Couple of notable guys that have played for them: Josh Donaldson, who just signed with a nice contract with the Braves, paid for them. Ben Heller, Lance Broadway, Caleb Dirks, Xavier Scrubs, and then Blake Trennan have all played for the Eagle River Chinook. So, they've got a good program itself. And again, they're faith-based, so they play baseball with a higher mission. It's great having them in the league as well. And then you get to my team, which is the Peninsula Oilers. Now, we are down in a small town called Kenai. If anybody's an extreme salmon fisherman, they've probably been down on the peninsula. We are, I like to say, the salmon capital of the world. And a few miles south of us is Homer, which some might say would be the halibut capital of the world. So if you've ever seen The Deadliest Catch, a lot of the boats that are based out of Alaska would go there to get their boats worked on down in Homer. That's probably one of my favorite places to go on the peninsula. Just the scenery there it's beautiful.
I actually watched that.
Yes, it's a good show. So we were founded in 1974. Again, as a nonprofit. We played at a public park, and then we did that for about 2 years before a gentleman named Coral Seymour built a stadium that us and the Legion play in. And obviously we rent that from the city each year. And it's a great stadium. Our fans turn out great. And just some notable guys that have played for us. Mickey Callaway is a former Oiler. He was the manager for the New York Mets up until recently. We've had J.D. Drew, Jay Snow. We've had a couple other guys, Mario Hollins, who I played college baseball with in Santa Barbara, but he got hurt. I mean, we've had 125 big leaguers come out of our program. Currently, Teddy Worker is an Oiler, but he's a coach at Cal Poly Slow. Gary Adcock is a head coach at Bass. He was a manager in the early 2000s for us. So it's not only players that come out of the Alaska Baseball League, it's also the coaches that seem to find good. Even Bruce Bochy, time up here. And so my first at the Peninsula Oilers, I was coaching actually under a gentleman, Hall of Fame coach by the name of Jim Dietz. He's long-term coach at San Diego State, Coach Buck, Tony, and the list goes on with G. That's kind of how I started my tenure in the ABL and with the Peninsula Oilers.
Now, so you were a coach somewhere else, and then you got involved with the league. How did you get involved in an Alaska league?
Well, funny is I moved down to San Diego to take a job at a college, and I went on to USD, worked there for a little bit. Then I moved to a small community college in Chula Vista called Southern. So my head coach there, Jay Martell, used to coach for Jim Dietz and Tony Gwynn at San Diego State. So Jim had called Jay and asked him if he wanted to be his pitching coach in Alaska. Jay couldn't take the job, so he said, hey, I got a pitching coach. He's young, ambitious. You like him. So I interviewed with Jim for about 3 times, and I got offered the job to be Jim Dietz's pitching coach for the Peninsula Oilers. After the year Jim retired, they offered me the position. For the past 2 years, I've been the head coach, going on my 3rd, and then this year I will also be the GM. So I'm taking on many facets of the organization.
That's our show for today, folks. Thanks for watching. This has been Commissioner's Corner on CSBN, your go-to source for collegiate summer baseball. I'm Ken O'Neill.